sustainability is a long-term thing. So despite the volatility of the short term, programs, KPIs, metrics, goals keep up because we never intended to have results in the next quarter.
Sure.
We are making investments for the long run. So I would say that volatility tends to hit harder on the finance role.
Financial data is hard enough, but sustainability data is even more complex. It covers E, S, and G. And for the first time, it's being collected vertically, all the way up and down the value chain.
And it's no longer just a story. Today, data is king, but it's got to be right, including mandatory board sign-off and external assurance.
Plus, we break down how finance and sustainability are aligning with programs like sustainability-linked bonds, and how leveraging AI is becoming a necessity to make sense of all the scattered, non-standardized information.
Welcome to the pre-read.
Just like the slides you get before a big meeting, the pre-read prepares you, CFOs and other executives, for the next big thing. It's the global podcast where finance, sustainability, audit, and risk teams come together in the C-suite.
If you're making decisions at scale or need to understand the leaders who are, you're in the right place. This is the pre-read brought to you by Workiva. I'm Steve Soder, accounting enthusiast and Diet Coke aficionado.
And I'm Melissa Zucker, sustainability nerd and equal opportunist caffeine addict. Today, we're talking about how data integrity and long-term leadership mindset are non-negotiables for success at the intersection of finance and sustainability. From ensuring board-level assurance to using AI to manage the complexity of global data and reporting standards.
That's right. While at Climate Week, I had the chance to sit down with sustainability leaders for some awesome conversations. And later in this episode, you'll hear from Andrea Casillas, the Finance and Sustainability Director for Grupo Herdez.
But first is Steve's conversation with Esther Ann, the CSO for City Developments Limited. What were some highlights from that chat for you, Steve?
Well, the first is data is king, and it's actually more complex than financial data. Sustainability is not just about storytelling, and it's got to be backed by data and facts. And this data is highly complex. As you said, it covers the E, S, and G, and its scope extends to things like Scope 3, which is far bigger, far wider, far broader than I think most people realize and appreciate. The second is that mandatory integration across the enterprise is critical. Effective sustainability is a team sport, and it's got to be integrated vertically from the board to top of the management down to the rake and file, and it's got to be integrated horizontally across all operational and business units, all teams, the value chain, and everything else.
Okay, well, what I wanted to highlight is first, external assurance and board oversight is essential. And to establish data accuracy and integrity, the company has actually implemented external assurance since 2009. The sustainability report is something they actually view as a board statement, and the board actually has to sign off on that, which creates accountability, giving stakeholders peace of mind. The second is that their reporting strategy follows a two-pillar approach: impact and value. On the impact side, it's of course what the business operation impacts, and that's guided by standards like GRI, SDGs, and the UN Global Compact. And then on the value side, what actually impacts the business financials and overall value is guided by things like the ISSB, TCFD, SASB, and TNFD frameworks.
Well, there's a lot to unpack, so let's get to my conversation with Esther. Esther, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the podcast.
Well, Steve, nice to be chatting here in Climate Week in New York City.
I love it. Tell us a little bit about your role.
Well, I am the Chief Sustainability Officer for City Developments Limited, or CDL for short. We are headquarters in Singapore. We are a developer. We build commercial property. We are also a landlord managing and operating property.
Oh, is that all?
We have a global footprint of 160 hotels worldwide.
Okay.
And I joined the company 30 years ago and started with, financial reporting, corporate communication, IR, and took over the role as Chief Sustainability Officer in 2014.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I love that. I have a financial reporting background myself, so we share that in common. Tell us a little bit about the challenges that you're facing right now. It's such a dynamic environment.
Well, if I trace back to 30 years ago when I first started the journey and conserving as we construct, which is actually our corporate ethos. At that time, life was simpler. Yeah. So and also no pressure from whether the regulators or investors for numbers of ESG and all that. And we started reporting since 2008.
Okay.
And I have published 18 sustainability report.
Wow.
Not under the pressure of regulations or investor, because we are actually working in an industry that has very high carbon and social impact. And even as it is today, real estate sector and construction sector together account for 37% of global greenhouse gas emission.
Really?
And account for 1/3 of water consumption and more than 1/3 of waste that produced in the industry. And how we design, how we build, and how we manage properties make a huge difference to decarbonize towards the global race to zero. The importance of sustainability integration, it has to engage vertically from your board to the top management, all the way down to the rank and file, and horizontally across all operational and business units. And in a larger scale, you have to add your value chain, your suppliers, and your tenants and building users and consumers. Because today we have to report not just scope 1, scope 2, but also scope 3. Scope 3 data are basically, from our, users, tenants, and supply chain largely. So I would say that sustainability integration and sustainability reporting largely based on data. It's not just about storytelling. You must have data to support your narrative. And gone are the days that you just reply questionnaire of ESG ratings and ranking just using your story. But you must provide data that are publicly available. Data is fundamental for good sustainability performance.
Well, I love the way that you describe that horizontal and vertical integration of the people, and now you're tying data into it. With financial reporting, I would say, at least my experience, the sources of data are fairly limited. There's a lot of them, but we've been doing it for a long time to kind of wrap our hands around that. That, I'm assuming, isn't necessarily the case with sustainability. Tell us about the journey of getting to where you kind of had all your data together, and maybe you're still working on it, but I'd love to hear more about that.
Well, I would say that sustainability data is even more complex because the scope is very wide. You cover environmental, social, governance, and not just your own data, but your supply chain data today.
Right.
Because under ISSB, we have to, report on scope 3 as one of the largest listed company in Singapore. So data is where the challenge is. How do you collect data, whether they're available, and where to get the data, and are they, accurate? These are all very important challenges that we are facing every day. So if your data is not accurate, garbage in, garbage out, right?
Right.
So you need to validate data, and you also need to know how to apply data to improve your performance. When you get the data, when you report it, that's the beginning of the whole journey. And how you use data to your advantage, to sharpen your competitive edge, to sharpen your operational strategy, your sustainability strategy, and to improve based on the target that you set towards net zero is most critical.
At what point did you be able to develop the confidence that you needed in that data to make decisions? Was there a tipping point? And if so, what happened? How did you reach that?
I would say that sustainability reporting is really the most important initiative in my career. In 2008, we published the first report using GRI guideline and framework. And at that time, the number of indicator was very limited. But today, fast track to today, we have a 2 pillars approach to report on impact and also on value. Impact is what is our business operation impact the planet and the people, the social side of thing and environmental data. That means you have to report on your energy consumption, water consumption, waste disposal, and a carbon footprint as well. And also human rights, labor practices, all the data on impact. On the other hand, you must also look at the financial and business value. And that is where you also apply to ISSB framework. And of course, from TCFD, we are transitioning to ISSB already, and also SASB. And you name it, we have it. We have so many different ESG ratings and ranking, including CDP. And lastly, TNFD that we just added last year into our integrated sustainability report. And all these areas, you must be backed by data and real information and facts, because investors nowadays are not just listening to your story. They want to look at your data.
Sure.
To see real performance. And I would say that the changing point was when we started taking up sustainability reporting over the years, which is getting harder and harder. And external assurance was really the biggest impact, because auditor, when they ask information, they are looking from outside in. So they ask a lot about your data integrity, where is the source of information, they need to validate it. We started external assurance for our reporting since 2009.
Oh, wow.
That was a long time ago.
Yes.
But fast track to today is already a board statement for Singapore. Well, according to our SGX requirement, our sustainability report is a board statement signed off by the board since 2017. So the data accuracy, integrity is very important. The board will ask a lot of questions. Where do you get this data from? Are they validated? Because with signing off, they are very concerned about, the accuracy and all that. So with external assurance, it makes everybody, give them the peace of mind.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
And I think data is fundamental for sustainability reporting and also sustainability integration to future-proof our business. And with data, it is like the North Star. You can, give you the clear direction. Where are your gaps? How to improve and where to improve. But in the end of the day, we use the data and facts to strategize what's the next course of action. And then following year, you look at the data again. So that's why data is so fundamental for continuous improvement for sustainability.
Well, one other question that I wanted to ask, certainly there's a lot of volatility around sustainability disclosure and regulation, not in all parts of the world, but certainly in some parts of the world. Is that having any impact on how you're thinking about sustainability reporting generally?
Of course, the world is all connected, and we are actually operating in 29 countries and regions.
Wow.
Although we headquarters in Singapore. So we are very concerned about what is happening, not just our industry, our regions, but globally, especially where we operate in UK, Europe, US, Australia, Japan, China, and in New Zealand and everywhere. So reporting standards evolve a lot. And as we are talking, there's still a lot of changes. And actually last year when ISSB announced the harmonization effort combining, our ISSB, GRI, CDP and greenhouse gas protocol plus TNFD, and how do we make it more interoperable and comparable. I really welcome that, because I still feel that it is difficult for one size fit all because of the diversity of different market, different industry, and different size of a company. So for us, we adopted the two pillars approach as what I explained earlier. For impact, it's basically GRI, SDG, the 10 principle of UN Global Compact, and our industry specific GRESB. So this is impact. And for value, we adopted, ISSB, which is actually transition from TCFD, and we have CDP. We also have SASB as well, and plus nature is a very important, element of the whole sustainability, strategy moving forward. So TNFD, again, how to measure data about nature, how to put a value to nature. That also require a lot of, very smart tools, and that is the future, to future-proof our business, combining climate action and also nature restoration and regeneration.
Well, we're here at the UN Global Compact in New York City, surrounded by colleagues and peers. Any advice you would give to them who are navigating these same issues?
Integration is the key, because you can't work in silo. Sustainability actually is a team game. You involve not just your board, your CEO, your top management, but all the way to all the operational units. And you must connect and you must integrate. Clear communication is very important. Nothing communicate your strategy and your direction and the targets better than data. You need to be specific. Yes, we want to remove, reduce, carbon footprint by how many percent, by when. All these must be very clearly communicated to your large ecosystem of stakeholder, internal and external stakeholder. So data is king.
Well, I love it. Esther, it's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for spending this time with us.
You're most welcome. Thank you.
88% of global professionals say AI is already driving ROI. But here's the catch. Only 1/3 have the data quality to use it well. In Workiva's latest global practitioner survey, 2,300 finance, audit, and sustainability pros shared how they're building value with AI amid uncertainty, with faster outputs, fewer manual tasks, and more strategic focus. You'll see what's working, where gaps remain, and how data integrity separates the leaders from those lagging behind. Read the full report at workiva.com/PR-building value. That's WORKIVA.com/PR-building value.
Next up is Steve's conversation with Andrea Casillas, Finance and Sustainability Director of Grupo Herdez. A couple of things that stuck out to me from that dialogue. First, alignment of finance and sustainability for value. The intersection of finance and sustainability has moved beyond mere reporting to creating strategic aligned programs. Second, long-term view over short-term volatility. Sustainability is fundamentally a long-term thing, and leaders have to avoid getting distracted by short-term volatility. Programs and goals keep up because they are long-run investments, and they're not intended to deliver results in the next quarter.
Well, I couldn't agree more, Alyssa. My highlights were that AI is a critical tool for data chaos. We know that clean, structured data is absolutely important for AI. But one of the things that we talked about was AI's role in actually being able to help clean up data and to make sense of it. And the second thing I took away was the necessity of brave leadership. Sustaining momentum requires strong, brave leadership and a growth mindset to adopt technology and to achieve goals. And leaders have got to persevere despite the noise and presence of people who actually still don't believe in sustainability even in the first place.
Do those people still exist? Tell me where they are, and I will find them.
You'll need to talk to Andrea.
All right, let's get to our conversation with Andrea Casillas.
Well, Andrea Omosurrutia Casillas, thank you so much for joining us.
No, thank you for having me.
So, you have an interesting role that's at the intersection of finance and sustainability. Tell us a little bit about that.
It has become quite interesting and challenging, I would say. I started being in finance, and I was the one with the idea of creating like a corporate role on sustainability. So after many years, like the intersection was only regarding the reporting. But nowadays, they have become more aligned, and we have developed like 3 important programs in the intersection. Like one we issued a sustainability-linked bond
Okay.
with a KPI on water reduction, and like perfect for finance and
Sure.
sustainability to work together. And at the beginning of this year, we also launched a supply chain program with an ESG label, where the suppliers that are able to comply with our sustainability strategy in terms of SDGs, they are able to get a lower discount on their invoices. So also a perfect alignment between both finance and sustainability. And we also have like a small venture capital fund, and we have made important bets on funds that are related to an SDG. So it could be equity and inclusion, or digitalization for our operation. The scope is like, it could be whatever we want.
Sure.
So now it seems that both are working more together and makes sense to have like similar, or at least the same KPIs to measure part of the strategies. So
When I think about all the volatility that's out there, all of the change and kind of upheaval, finance and sustainability both seem to be kind of at the top of that list as far as practice areas. How are you navigating that right now?
well, I think that, and from what I have heard in all the panels during this week, when we talk about sustainability, it's very difficult to, or there's no challenge on the short term, I would say. Or we as leaders, we don't have to get into the noise,
Okay.
because sustainability is a long-term thing. So despite the volatility of the short term, programs, KPIs, metrics, goals keep up, because we never intended to have results in the next quarter.
Sure.
We are making investments for the long run. So I would say that volatility tends to hit harder on the finance
Okay.
role, you know,
Okay.
because we have to be up to speed on commodity prices, the interest rates. But at the end, it's important not to lose the focus on the long term. I come from a company that it's public, but the controlling shareholder has a long-term view. So
Okay.
I have that benefit that
Okay.
we are not managing for the next quarter.
And is that changing the way that you're thinking about data sources, processes? I mean, I love that you say that, by the way, like, hey, this is a long-term thing. I think that's probably reassuring for people who are listening. How does that translate then into the way that you operate, and the way that you think about your data sources, your processes, the way that your teams come together? I mean, it sounds like you don't have to be particularly reactive. Not that you like put your head in the sand and ignore what's happening, but it seems like, hey, we're not managing quarter to quarter. We are thinking years or even decades in advance.
Oh yeah, but I would say that the challenges on the short term are how we keep up with the pace of what the world is experiencing.
Sure.
So we have to incorporate artificial intelligence. That has been a challenge, because we are implementing at the time that we are learning and that we are finding new ways to use it. So that's a challenge, definitely.
Well, tell us about your journey. I know there's a lot of people listening who are thinking the same thing about being up to speed and figuring out how it's going to impact their teams.
I think it's a matter of mindset.
Okay.
Growth mindset, probably. And like the skills that we have to develop for the future. So but that's how we are keeping up. All the teams are trying to understand how to use AI for their own projects. I think that it can be a significant trigger for sustainability in particular, because the data, it's not the standardized, and you can find data everywhere, particularly in a country like Mexico, where we don't have like the statistics that you have in the US. Like there's information all over the place. So with artificial intelligence, we can get all this information to make some sense, and then we can take action. So there's no fast answer to your question, but what I can say is that we are adopting as fast as possible technology in order to increase the pace of our results.
Well, I think it's comforting to hear you talk about the benefits of AI and maybe some of the challenges. In fact, on the podcast, we had a professor who was talking about AI and sustainability as being these kind of twin pillars that like one can actually like really help complete the other in different ways, as you can imagine. So I love the fact that you brought that up and that you're thinking about that the same way. We're here at the UN Global Compact. We've got colleagues and peers all about us. What advice would you give to them who are most certainly navigating the same issues that you are?
That's a good question. I was invited to a panel today, and when we were having the prep call for the panel, we had very different views on how to approach the current environment. So I would say the same thing that I mentioned at that call. I think that today we have to work harder on leadership. I think that it's a matter of leadership. Even though that we have a lot of noise around and a lot of people that still do not believe in sustainability, I think that leaders will make it work in the long run. So today we have the benefits of having data, science backing up why this is important. And it doesn't matter what happens in the next quarter, in the next year, in the next term, whatever. I think that we have to keep up being brave leaders so we can achieve the goals. That's my hope.
I love that. I love that. Well, and I think back to your earlier point about thinking more in the long term. Good leaders don't ignore the short term, but they are primarily long-term focused, and it sounds like that's where you're at. Well,
Yes.
Andrea, it's such a pleasure to talk to you. Terrific insights. Thank you so much for spending time with us.
Thank you.
Thank you again to our guests, Esther Ann and Andrea Casillas, and thank you for listening.
This has been the pre-read brought to you by Workiva, the world's only unified platform for financial reporting, sustainability, audit, and risk.
We've got more insights and hot takes coming your way, so be sure to follow or subscribe on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your edge.
If you liked the show, leave a review, send it to someone you love, or just shout it out from your next team call.
We'll be back next week, and until then, go lead it like you mean it.
I'm Melissa Zucker, and that's Steve Soder. Our lead producer is Mike Rabano, with production support from Renee Lee, Joseph Machinsky, and Drew Hayes.
Claire Allison is our graphic designer. Transcripts are created and edited by Courtney Kimsey. And thanks to our digital and social team, Mike Berg, Katie Carr, and Michael Karnowski.